Hello, hi everyone. My name is Stefan Kanaz. I'm the publisher of Travelweek. We bring you webinars to learn about all these exciting destinations around the world. And today we have a very exciting destination, Massachusetts. Before I pass it on to Abigail, just a little bit of housekeeping. Um, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box and we're going to address them at the end. So I'd like to welcome Abigail Phillips. She's the Director of Communications for Massachusetts, and she's going to tell us all about her destination. Hi, Abigail.
Hey, thank you for having me today. Bear with me a moment while I just get my deck up and running. Let's see. Let's see. Did that work? No. Hold on. Ah. All right. Can you guys see this screen?
Yes,
Oh,
we
yep.
can.
That I just minimized to the extreme. All right. Give me one moment to go to. This is the one. All right. Wonderful. Oh, God. Are you seeing this? Okay. All right. Massachusetts. So I just want to share a little bit first about the Massachusetts Office of Travel and Tourism. We are a statewide DMO. We are really interested in promoting Massachusetts as both a leisure and business destination, for international and domestic travel. We, our state is very robust in that, we have a lot of iconic firsts that have happened, which I'll get into in a minute. We also are a hotbed for innovation and tech. So there's certainly a lot of business travel that happens in Massachusetts, especially in the greater Boston area, and that like life sciences and tech sort of hotbed. And we're so keen to welcome folks. So let me share a little bit of background about the state, just to ground everyone in where they are. So Massachusetts gets its name from the Massachusetts tribe, which is an indigenous, one of three indigenous peoples that called Massachusetts home. The Pilgrims arrived in Provincetown on the Cape and in Plymouth in 1620. Some of these iconic sort of American history events happened in Massachusetts, including the Salem witch trials, the first battles of the American Revolution, which we're celebrating the 250th of in about 2 weeks now. The fishing ports in Gloucester and New Bedford are pretty iconic. A lot of the big ship builds for the United States happened in Gloucester as well as New Bedford, and New Bedford is really rich in an American whaling history and story. A lot of the oil production and the whale ships happened right out of southeastern Mass. So if you're looking at the elbow, it's like the armpit. And then we also have a lot of industry and especially industrial revolution history with mills in Springfield, Lowell, and Lawrence. A couple of the firsts that I had mentioned, Boston Common is the first public park. Revere Beach, just north of Boston, was the first public beach in America. We have our Boston Light is the first of the, very iconic lighthouses of New England, and first in the country. Chocolate chip cookies are actually invented in Whitman, Mass, which is on the South Shore. And Woodman's of Essex brought us all a little bit, of widening pants with the fried clams, which are very iconic in our part of New England. We are one of the largest cranberry production states in the United States. So like Ocean Spray, for example, which is a very popular brand, all of their cranberries come from southeastern Massachusetts and that sort of like Plymouth belt. We also are a very robust sports destination. We were coming off last week where Boston hosted the International Figure Skating Championships, which Mott was a co-sponsor of that event, to welcome everyone warmly to the state as they came in for competition. So Fenway Park is the oldest baseball park in the country. We have some very iconic Celtics with our Celtics basketball team, who are currently the reigning world champions. We'll see how the rest of the season goes, but that's always been a very big draw, with very iconic players like Bill Russell, the first Black player in the NBA, Larry Bird, Danny Ainge. There are a lot of famous Celtics. The first basketball game was played in Springfield, Massachusetts, and Holyoke is actually home to volleyball. It's the founding of volleyball. So not only do we have the Boston Marathon, which is also coming up in a couple of weeks, which is the first in the country, but there is a team spirit that sort of is an undercurrent of our state. And our hometown sports, the Boston Red Sox, again, the Celtics, the Patriots, the Bruins. There is a very large fan base here, and because of the way New England works, specifically with Massachusetts, they are home teams that are regional. So there's a lot of local pride within Massachusetts and around Massachusetts for our hometown teams. I wanted to share a little bit of our sort of Canada connections. Massachusetts has a really great relationship with Canada as a country. You're our number one trading partner. Governor Healy has engaged with Canadian officials at several inflection points on, key policy issues, including trade, but it's a really important relationship to us, especially as we think about collaborations for technology and education, and energy, which are really, really big priorities for Massachusetts industry. Obviously, the Boston, Halifax, and Scotia, historic connection and trade partnership is an undercurrent that is very front of mind for us now and always. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that up front. And then from a travel standpoint, we have several direct service flights, which is lucky for all of us, to Canada every day and every week, all year round. So I wanted to just show a map. Sometimes it's easier to ground yourself in a location when you can see the map. So we have what we call 6 super regions. We have region number 1, which is the greater Boston area. That includes, Boston and Cambridge, which are sort of our central cities, and capital city is Boston. But we also, that gets us all the way out to Concord and Lexington, where those, that Revolutionary War and literary history is so rich and so deep. Louisa May Alcott's Little Women is sort of one of those beloved iconic books that, and Louisa May Alcott lived in Concord. So there's a sort of a hotbed of writers that lived out there. And then you get up to number 2, which is what we call north of Boston. And that includes Salem and Gloucester and Rockport, which is a very iconic artist community. And then you have, south of Boston, number 3, which includes Plymouth and Fall River and New Bedford. Certainly, I talked about New Bedford on the whaling history, but that is like very rich in the Pilgrim story, cranberries. There's also an incredibly large Portuguese American population in that area, because a lot of those whale ships were led by Azorian immigrants who basically found equity on the whale boats. So that's our 3rd super region. In 4th, we have Cape Cod and our 2 islands, Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. Nantucket is known for, again, its whaling history. It's a little bit further out. Its climate's a little bit more temperate. It has been recently thrust into the spotlight with Netflix's The Perfect Couple. Ellen Hildebrand lives and writes on the island. So that is one that, has been top of mind for everyone. Martha's Vineyard has an incredibly complex and wonderful story. It's a Quaker founded island. There's a lot of Black history on the island as well. The Obamas go there. Several presidents really go there, but it has those beautiful gingerbread houses, and it's all a quick half hour from Cape Cod, the Falmouth area, which is just well, you can see it. I hope on the map it's a little small, but in number 5 you have Central Massachusetts, which is home to Worcester. It's also really rich with agritourism, a lot of craft beverages, wineries, apple orchards, pumpkin patches, corn mazes in the right season, and beautiful spring blossoms in this time of year. So there's a lot to do and see and move your body out in central Massachusetts. And then number 6 is our super region, Western Massachusetts. Again, really beautiful parts. Mount Greylock cuts through that back half of the state, and it's the mountain for us that's part of the Appalachian Trail. And it's a big artist community, a lot of musicians, a lot of colleges and universities. So you don't find as many chains in that part of the state. You see a lot of really cute and quaint independent towns, um, and restaurants and museums and things like that. The Norman Rockwell Museum is out there, and that's kind of one of our hidden gems. The Eric Carle Museum is out there. It's a children's book author known for his very different and revolutionary illustration style. So there's a lot of like interesting, fun things to see and do up there. I always think it's sometimes helpful to see what the driving distance looks like. The nice thing about Massachusetts is that it is a state that, from end to end, furthest end to furthest end is 3 hours. So from Boston to Western Massachusetts, Greater Boston to Western Massachusetts is about a 3-hour drive. It's also, easy to get to other surrounding states. So, getting to New York is not, daunting. Same with Providence or Burlington, which is nice for flights. It's nice to just know that there's some access there. So I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive in each of our regions, just quickly. So Greater Boston has 23 neighborhoods. It has iconic museums like the Museum of Fine Arts and the Isabella Stewart Gardner and the Institute of Contemporary Art. It also has fun things like the Ice Cream Museum and the Innovation Trail. You have your Freedom Trail and your African American history. It's a chance to, really walk through history. And one of the nice sort of sweet things about Boston is it's not a crushing skyline. It's very accessible. It's easy to navigate. We have really great public transportation that can get folks where they need to go by the MBTA and buses. And then we also, again, our Boston is very much rooted in its education culture. A lot of colleges and universities, from the iconic Harvard and MITs to there's the Northeastern universities and the BUs and Emerson College. I was just down there this morning, and they have this beautiful, robust theater, and it's nice to have that young energy, that sort of fuels and drives the city. North of Boston is about 30 minutes from downtown Boston. It's accessible by obviously car and also train. They are known for their gorgeous. Yes, sorry, did you have a question?
No, you're good. Unfortunately, we are not following the slides. I just wanted to make sure you could reshare your screen.
Oh. Let me. So my mouse is gone. You see Greater Boston?
No, we're still on the first slide.
Interesting.
I could also share it.
If you could share it, that would be lovely.
Yep. Sure, give me 1 second.
Maybe just pause for a moment on the map.
Yeah, sure.
I talked at length about a map that is not. Here, let me end the slideshow. There you go. Wonderful. Awesome. So this is the map that I was talking about. just so you can see the, I'm so sorry, guys. It was just not my day. So you can see Greater Boston. You can see north of Boston there in the yellow. You see south of Boston in the green, the Cape and Islands, of course, and then, central and western Massachusetts towards the left of the state. Okay, Zoe, thank you. And those are the driving distances. And we will obviously share this deck with everyone or anyone who is interested following the presentation. So it's a little on Greater Boston that I just talked through. Hopefully I will be back on script as we just round up the rest of the north of Boston region. Again, a lot of iconic maritime history has happened in this part of the state, the Salem witch trials, artist communities. North of Boston is really rich because it spreads very wide in that part of Massachusetts. So, you can get to these really beautiful art museums like the De Cordova Sculpture Art, which is, this beautiful outdoor space that's operated by the trustees of the reservation. But you also have the iconic, it's called the Pem Museum, which gets really interesting exhibits and is one of the greatest treasures of a Massachusetts itinerary. And then there is some of that, sort of Concord and Lexington, American Revolution and literary history. And then there's also, that, as I said, the maritime piece with the lighthouses, and there's a lot of, seafood culture and fresh from the ocean cuisine that happens every day in that part of the state. Next slide, sorry. Thanks. And we have south of Boston, which is home to the Plymouth Pawtuxet Museum, which is a really special museum. It's a living history museum that combines both the pilgrim experience with the indigenous community and shows how those two communities worked together, how they knew each other, how they supported each other. So it's a really impressive and also iconic destination within Massachusetts. Pilgrim Hall is, of course, a part of Plymouth as well. And we talked a bit about the New Bedford Whaling Museum. One of the nice things to note about New Bedford, because it is one of those beautiful cobblestone, early 19th century cities that was such an epicenter of innovation, it also has some great accessibility. So just last week, our commuter rail, our train, our regional train, launched a new service down to southeastern Massachusetts. So now that whole section of the state is very accessible by both train and car. And then the islands are also accessible from New Bedford. So there are ferries that run every day to Martha's Vineyard and to Nantucket, which is a really nice and easy way to get on and off island if you need to. And then Battleship Cove in Fall River is home to 3 U.S. Navy ships that have been decommissioned. 2 are destroyers and 1 is a submarine, but people can get on and off those. Oftentimes, for us, what we call the scouts do their camps there. There have been boxing matches and sort of local sporting that has been held on those ships, and it's a very special community in the state. Next slide. Then we have Cape Cod, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard. Those are our islands. They are those sort of gray shingled houses on beautiful beaches that are sort of, what you think of when you think of coastal New England, or at least I do. JFK and the whole Kennedy family compound is on Cape Cod. The JFK Museum is right in Hyannis, and it really tells the stories of the Kennedy family on the Cape and how they engaged with the community and the ways that they supported the artist culture there and sort of the community wellness of those areas. So it's sort of a hidden gem and just a wonderful place to be in the world. There's a lot to do on Martha's Vineyard, but Martha's Vineyard is also a fishing port. There are a ton of places to grab fresh catch of the day. There are several sort of regions of the island that are easily accessible by car, and they have a really nice and consistent shuttle service to get folks around the island who don't have cars once you're on island. The black dog is kind of the famous creature of Martha's Vineyard. Black dog stores are, have been franchised now across the country, but the original black dog story actually happened on Martha's Vineyard, and you can go to that restaurant and eat right where that sea captain of the Shenandoah found this puppy that ended up becoming the iconic black dog. And they have a black dog that runs around the restaurant, and it's very sweet. There's a lot of really wonderful things to do on Martha's Vineyard, and then same with Nantucket. Nantucket, it has those beautiful cobblestones, and it's easily walkable, and some of the most beautiful and clean beaches that are easy to swim. There's it's a little quieter than Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard has some very lively sort of centers with Edgartown and Oak Bluffs, and Nantucket is a little more relaxing. But this is the one that I had mentioned for the Ellen Hildebrand novels, like the perfect couple that just happen on the island, and it's a really nice experience. I think the next slide is Central Massachusetts. Yes, lucky. So we have an American Heritage Museum, which is a military history museum. And they host groups for visits where they can have these special experiences where they get to see actual military helicopters, and you can actually there's some sort of thing where they can get inside like old, like decommissioned, like American old artillery tanks and things like that. So they have a very impressive collection for history buffs. And they offer some really exclusive sort of group tour opportunities for folks who are interested. Groton Music Hall is new and a beautiful music space, sort of in central Massachusetts, that it's on this like rolling hill and beautiful apple orchards. Like people get married there, and now it is this beautiful place people can go for indoor outdoor concerts all year round. So that's a really special new asset of ours. Gibwood Hill is, that's the farm that overlooks, and it's wonderful. I almost got married there. Wayside Inn is the oldest continuously operated inn in the country, and it's another really beautiful space. Central Massachusetts and Western Massachusetts, which we'll get to in a minute, are some of the most picturesque, non-daunting sort of like countrysides, easy to navigate, not overwhelming places, and there's so much interesting life and activity because those museums are unique. So you have your Worcester Art Institute, which has some really fascinating exhibits, and they get wonderful things they have wonderful things in their permanent collection, but they also just the curator is a deeply engaged cultural icon. And then you have Wachusett Mountain, which has not quite Canadian mountains, but more, these are the bunny slopes that, families and people from Boston can get out to very easily and learn on, and just have a good time skiing, but not necessarily maybe the most challenging, though there are some like double blacks, but it's mostly like grins and blues. So, there's a lot to do in central Massachusetts. And as I mentioned earlier, it's also rich with a lot of the Massachusetts harvest and produce. So a lot of apples, a lot of apple cider donuts, a lot of craft beverages come from the central part of Massachusetts. And there are a lot of experiences tailored to that. And then it must be Western Massachusetts is the next line. But Western Massachusetts is, home to some big heavy hitters from the arts and culture sort of pillar of what Massachusetts tourism has to offer. Jacob's Pillow is this incredible dance festival that happens in the United States, but its roots are in Western Mass. And Tanglewood is the summer home for the Boston Symphony Orchestra, and those are these beautiful like outdoor concerts that happen every summer. They sometimes get iconic mashups like Roger Daltrey from The Who will come and sing alongside Yo-Yo Ma, and it's a really special place to be. You have your beautiful art institutes. You have the Clark, the Norman Rockwell, Eric Carle. MASMOCA is the biggest contemporary art museum in the country. It's a converted mill and a beautiful space with these beautiful. It's called porches. It's a B&B that is across from it that used to be the homes of the mill workers that were in the mill of the 18th centuries or the 19th century. So it's everything out there is interesting and has a rich history. The Yankee Candle Village is always a popular attraction. Yankee candles are made in Massachusetts, and again, outdoor adventure reigns supreme. You have a lot of hiking. You have, as you can see, whitewater rafting. You get a lot of fall foliage seekers, but there's also a lot of beautiful spring blooms that happen, in that part of the country. And we're just seeing all the daffodils come out now, and next month it'll be lilac, and it's really something to see. I'm going to share a little bit about our, I think it's sort of highlights. Yeah, there we go. Massachusetts 250 is a big campaign that we're in the middle of right now. We are about 2 weeks out, as I said, from Patriots Day, which are those first shots of the American Revolution that happened in Concord and Lexington. We will have another big anniversary for the Battle of Bunker Hill in Boston in June of this year. And there are several different events that are, sort of many, like hundreds of events that are happening across the state as we really lean in to the revolutionary spirit of Massachusetts. So we're both celebrating iconic first, but also upholding some of the untold stories from, underrepresented groups. So, contributions of the Black community, Indigenous communities, and the women whose stories were not as available in history at that time. So we're really trying to hold those up, as well as the traditional American history stories that so that everyone feels really engaged with the celebration and like there's a place for them in it. We have FIFA games coming up in 2026. We're going to be hosting 7 matches, and including a quarterfinal, which is exciting. And those games are going to happen at Gillette Stadium, where the Patriots and the New England Revolution teams play. And there will be fan zones set up. There are 2 in Boston. So more to come on that. Sail Boston will come the week after FIFA games wrap. So it'll be about 50 ships from countries around the world. They're tall ships, and people will be able to get on and off those. And I believe there are some bookable experiences where you can actually rent a ship and the crew will take it out and you can have dinner on the ship. So there are some opportunities that, if anyone's interested in, certainly be in contact. And as I mentioned, the World Figure Skating Championships just left last week. So that was a really exciting event for all of us to participate in and to welcome, everyone from around the world. And we have lacrosse championships for NCAA, which is college. College lacrosse is later this spring. So that'll be coming up as well. We have some themes and trails that I would love to share on the next slide. Yep. So we really like our trails. We really like creating experiences for people to have things to follow or things that they can do while they're here. Last summer, we launched our ice cream trail. Ice cream is like an iconic food in Massachusetts. We eat it all year round. We love it. So the ice cream trail features over 100 destinations, and every stop on the trail is linked to a local dairy farm. So it's a really nice way for us to support our local farmers and also, get out and enjoy sweet treats any time of year. Some would say summer is better than not, but we're pretty hardy. We like it all year round. Massachusetts is actually home to 3 of the big sort of ice cream brands in the state. So Friendly's and Brigham, and then also I believe it's Hood. I believe Hood's home is originally in South Boston, actually. We have our Massachusetts Lighthouse Trail. It's iconic. There are a lot of beautiful things you can see. Some of those experiences you can stay in, you can rent, you can book to stay in some of these iconic and historic lighthouses overnight. So if those are bookable experiences that would be of interest, again, please let us know. Eco-conscious travel stays at the front of our mind always. So we're always trying to find ways to embrace, our blue and green economies, thinking about things like our whale trail and, the maritime experiences that you can have. Same with any of the agritourism things. We are in the process of building a craft beverage trail, which will include wine, beer, mead, and those offerings will be coming later this year, early next. But that's something to be looking out for as well. We're really trying to thoughtfully partner in all of our tourism initiatives. And then there's sports, which I had mentioned is, Massachusetts is a great place to cheer for the home team. So, we are the birthplace for basketball and volleyball, but we also have, iconic sports stadiums that are worth visiting. A couple new accommodations I just wanted to make sure everyone had on their radar. We have one in, Cape Cod. We have, a couple sort of north and south of Boston, but some really beautiful boutique experiences that we just want to make sure that everyone has on their radar. And again, we'll share this deck with you following this presentation. We also have some new attractions I mentioned the Groton Hill Music Center. The Innovation Trail is really fun in that it is sort of the first of its kind for us. It takes you on a walking trail between Boston and Cambridge, and you get into buildings and spaces that you wouldn't otherwise be in, like the hall where the first surgery was performed at Mass General. You get into, MIT, and you get to see, where the first computer was built, and you go into the building in what's now Lab Central in Cambridge, where the first telephone call was made by Alexander Graham Bell. It's a cool place to stand in a moment in time, where you get to sort of stand and learn about the stories of, these early inventors that, created things that we use now every day. The North Shore Children's Museum is really robust, really wonderful for families. It's a safe, accessible, not overwhelming space for kids to explore and learn. And Greylock Glen is it's an upcoming outdoor environmental education experience that's going to happen in the Berkshires, and we're really excited for that one. So we also have some new restaurants that I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of. One of the most iconic and that we were certainly most excited about was the Iron Horse in Northampton, which was a very famous music venue locally that is reopened, and a lot of breweries, a lot of spaces where there is local food and craft beverage, and so I wanted to make sure these were on everyone's radar. And then I just wanted to share just a quick sort of housekeeping about travel planning. So Visit MA is home to not just our travel guide, but detailed itineraries, all of our trails, resources that will be helpful for navigating your travel, resources that would be helpful for planning your travel. So I hope this is a website that you will use if you are trying to book and plan. your next Massachusetts trip. And then my last slide is really just contact information. I am pinch hitting today for who will be your point of contact in Massachusetts, who is Julie Arison Bishop. She's our director of marketing. She has a very robust group travel experience. She herself used to work at the House of Seven Gables in Salem, which was the home of Nathaniel Hawthorne, very famous writer. But you also have my information. I'm Abby Phillips again. I'm the director of communications here. And Zoe Sala has been my Girl Friday. She has been making these slides possible for you when I could not. So she works on sort of fam trips. She often helps, she helps with everything. She sort of Swiss Army knife, but she's very good at helping book experiences, share photos, any of the resources that you may need. Zoe will likely be, touching, those contacts at some point in the conversation. So she's a great person to know. And that's it.
Thank you, Abigail. That was a great presentation, very informative. Agents out there, if you have any questions, please put them in your Q&A box and we'll get to them. I guess the burning question for everyone is, have you seen a drop in Canadian visitors with all this tariff hoopla?
We have not seen a drop yet. It's obviously something we have been watching for. We have seen projections. We have really good partners in Brand USA and Discover New England. And we're closely watching. It's very hard for us because, as I sort of mentioned on one of my early slides that you didn't get to see, Massachusetts has really strong ties to Canada. We love Canada, and a lot of, there is a large part of our population that actually has family that is either relocated or is from Canada. So there's a lot of back and forth. We have a lot of businesses that also have their either headquarters, there, here or there. So there's a lot of business travel. There's, one of the biggest destinations for bachelor parties, if you live in Massachusetts, is Montreal. So it's just, there's great affection for Canada, and that would be a really hard loss for us. And so maintaining the relationship, making sure that Massachusetts continues to feel like a welcoming place, especially for Canadian travelers, is really important to the Office of Travel and Tourism in Mass.
Okay, very well said. I know that is a tough question to answer, so good job. Dana wants to know if there's a specialist program for agents to learn more.
Yeah, there is Julie. So Julie Arison Bishop is working on one. So I think that's something we'll probably have once we get on the other side of IPW. So we're planning to roll out something in the early part of fall.
Okay, well, that's all the questions from agent. So do you want to just maybe do one final wrap up, like really inspiring us Canadians to come on down?
I think on the spot, the only thing that I would want to say from the communications part for the Office of Travel and Tourism is, and the whole administration and the state in general, Massachusetts is a place for everyone to be who they are and to be welcome. It is part of our ethos. So it's not like a line that we necessarily have to, continue to drive home in our marketing. It is safe and it is accessible, and the people here are interesting and open to whoever wants to come and get to know us, because we certainly want to get to know you. And there's an adventure for everyone, but it's also a place where everyone can be and explore at their own pace as themselves. So I think that is my big plug for Massachusetts. Is it's a state that is manageable, and Massachusetts wants people to come because you can be who you are here.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Abigail. Thank you, Zoe, for being here.
Thank you.
Agents, thank you for your time being here as well. We'll have another Travel Week webinar next week. So everyone, go enjoy your day. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thank you.